Kryptonite. It's Superman's go-to weakness, and for some a bit of a polarizing substance. Some find it fun or even a necessary addition to the lore, while others find it played out or contrived. Over the years, the lore surrounding it has expanded and changed. They've added different colors, branched out, there have been different effects. It's greatly expanded, just like the amount of people who survived the explosion of Krypton. When it comes to Kryptonite, it all comes down to how you use it. I bet that's also what the villains trying to kill Superman say. But the question is, can you make a fun and interesting story with it? The Superman/Batman series, which began in 2003 and ran until 2011, decided to take on that challenge. It featured an entire storyline which was eventually collected and called The Search for Kryptonite. It's a very accurate title for the collection because the entire story is Superman and Batman going around trying to destroy all the kryptonite in the world. Yes, all of it. This story gets so wacky. Would you have imagined, based on that description, that at some point they would end up on Dinosaur Island or that Superman would get high? It's a roller coaster full of thought-provoking moments, but also very random ones. It's a journey, so let's get to it. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics. Let's go off with the world's finest to try and destroy all the kryptonite. All of it. The storyline in question spans issues 44 to 49 of Superman/Batman and was released through 2008. Story inside goes by the name K, and then it has chapter subheadings. I will always be amused by the K subheading for Kryptonite. Green K, red K, it makes it sound like you're talking about a street drug. The first two issues of K were written by Michael Green alone, and then from chapter 3 onward to the end, they're co-written with Mike Johnson. The art is by Shane Davis, with inks by Matt Banning and colors by Alex Sinclair. So it's consistent art-wise throughout, which is nice. Our first chapter is called Strange Favor and has one of my favorite comic book openings ever, of all time. Just a quick note before we fully get started, one of the things about this series, what it was known for, was for the dueling narration boxes between Batman and Superman. Or rather, complementary. Sometimes they were dueling. You would get these narration boxes for Batman and Superman's inner thoughts, and they would bounce off of each other. Some stories used it very effectively to highlight both the differences and similarities between the two men, and it really showcased how their friendship worked. It also provides shipping fodder for Superbat fans everywhere. This storyline has some of the stronger intercutting, although it also has moments where the narration boxes get very melodramatic. It has it all. This is ridiculous. This is hysterical. I'm with Superman. They're watching the filming of a movie about them called World's Finest, and this in-universe movie, it's a work of sheer art. Perfection. I know that look. That's the face you make before you start spilling all your secrets. You never could keep a secret. There's one secret I never did tell you, or anyone. Why I fight crime. The perspective on Batman is so wonky in this panel. You see, Superman, it all began with my mother. She abused us terribly, me and my sister. One day when I was just 8, she did more than raise her hand to me. She held a baseball bat. A bat I'd gotten it at Bat Day at the Gotham Knights game. A bat I'd gotten it at Bat Day at the Gotham Knights game. My sister, she stood up for me. She took the beating that was meant for me. My sister went into a coma. Never came out. I swore that day, never again would I suffer. It's the best backstory ever. I swore that day, never again would I let someone be hurt while I stood by. Now every night, I watch over the city, Gotham, and I think of my sister still in the hospital bed, unmoving after all these years. I try to honor what she might have been. You need to learn to keep your emotions in check, Lance. Come, we have work to do. To your lab on the moon. Yes. To the moon! And cut! There are a few things in life that elicit the same emotional response from you every single time. This opening makes me laugh. Every time. I thought that when I came on camera and filmed read the lines it'd be different, but no, I couldn't keep it together there either. This opening, it gets me. Why does he still have an animal bat themed costume if it was baseball bat related? Why is Superman so awful to Lance? Lance is here spilling his guts out and Superman's like, listen, Lance, no one cares. To the moon. Just the idea of the citizens of Gotham seeing this movie and believing that it was in any way credible. Can you imagine Batman's fighting a criminal trying to stop crime and they go, I'm sorry about your sister, or can I see the moon base? I love all of it. You may also be wondering, why was Lance British? Well, that's because when Livewire comes in a few panels and interrupts this, she's there to kidnap him for ransom. She says that he was her favorite Bond ever, and I take that to mean that he is British, which just adds a whole extra beautiful layer. Citizens of Gotham have heard him speak. I'm sure he's probably putting on an accent, but it's funnier to me if he's not. The entire Bat family needs to go see this opening day. I'm so happy now. The opening of this comic makes my day better. Batman hates everything they're doing. How dare they? This all goes south and Superman flies in to deal with Livewire, only for her to ignite the kryptonite prop, which it turns out is actual kryptonite for authenticity. It gets in his eye and he's down for the count. Batman has to call for backup, and that's Wally, and he shows up and he's sassing very hard until he sees that, oh, this is actually quite serious. Afterwards, Superman is very bothered by all of this, and after brooding for a bit and basking in the sun at the fortress to heal, Alfred had to pick the shards out of him. He decides he needs to do something about it.
I have a strange favor to ask you. No, Clark, you can't borrow my pirate ship.
Ooh, they said the title. Clark has no time for Bruce's sass. Eye patches are a serious accessory in comic books. In general, in this series, it's nice to see Clark sass Bruce back. Some series make him a real stick in the mud in that regard, but this one shows he can banter quite well himself when he wants to, and Batman is a good foil for him to do that with. It highlights one of the things that makes their relationship special, because that's not a relationship that Superman does or can have with every other hero. The aforementioned favor in question is actually not all that strange, but he spends a lot of time setting it up. He's building it up.
It's not too far from the truth. Kryptonite is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's embarrassing. There's so much of it, the prop guy in that movie said a piece of real kryptonite because the director thought it'd look more authentic. Great. Now he cares about authenticity. Just in Gotham, it's traded at $1,000 a gram. I saw a store selling kryptonite stone engagement rings. There used to be a ton of it where I grew up in Smallville. Gave me endless grief.
Yes, we're playing with some Smallville continuity here a bit. It was 2008, which means we're coming off on the 8th season of Smallville at that time. Batman is not entirely understanding of Superman's plight, as he notes that while he's vulnerable to everything, him, Batman, he specifically calls out lead. He says that that's the norm, but Superman iterates that it's not the norm for him. And also, if he's taken out, many more people could get hurt. So he asks Bruce, will he help him round up all the kryptonite in the world and destroy it? Bruce does agree, even though we all already know that he's gonna keep some for himself. They go up to the moon, no, I mean to the satellite, to scan the Earth to see how much they're dealing with. It's so much. That's ridiculous. Did the entire planet of Krypton land on Earth? My word, how does Superman accomplish anything? So yeah, they have their work cut out for them. Which brings us to Chapter 2, Known Deposits. Good title. Our cover promises us Aquaman, and it gives us Aquaman. And he really does attack. The accuracy. But I'm still wondering, are they gonna go up to people and yoink all of the stones out of their engagement rings? Does kryptonite still cause cancer in this continuity? Do people know that? They shouldn't be wearing it as engagement rings. At the start of Chapter 2, Batman takes a piece off the Joker that he was keeping in a teddy bear, so I'm feeling more confident they're stopping people on the streets and demanding their kryptonite jewelry. They're trying to go after the bigger chunks first, and that's causing some interesting ripple effects. Like some of the League members helping out not because they're friends with Superman and they just want to help out the goodness of their hearts, but because they're hoping to advance their position within the League. Found this chunk in the Andes, went and covered another 3 squares on the grid while I was at it, and just trying to do my part for a friend. You need anything else? Just ask. And if there are any, missions coming up that you think I might be good for.
I'd like to think you did this out of friendship.
Oh, that, of course. They don't linger on this aspect of the story, but it's one of the more intriguing elements in my opinion. Superman discovering the different ways people view him and his relationship to kryptonite. The Toyman, the Hiro Okamura version who debuted in the series, shows up because he needs to deliver Chekhov's gun. I mean, he's invented some nanites, some spider robots that can deal with kryptonite on a microscopic level, and I'm sure we'll never need that and we won't see him again. And while yes, he's still obsessed with Power Girl and her boobs, you will never escape from that running joke, or her boobs. This series just loves to have Hiro, a young Japanese boy, be obsessed with Power Girl's giant boobs. There's a way to do this joke and make it funny, but this series tends to take it too far at points and make it weird and awkward. Yes, many teen boys enjoy a large bosom, and that can be funny. It started out awkward from the very first time they introed him as a character by having the male characters in that issue send Power Girl in as a distraction. So it's not even something that she suggested, which wouldn't have been off-brand. Because Power Girl is very confident, especially in this time period. She has a bit of a you look at them, it's your problem type of attitude. They're there, they're glorious, she's showing them off, you can deal with it. Although there's a whole debate about that because she is a character and so she's being filtered through the lens of others, but that's not what this video is about. We'll come back to more Power Girl and Hero shenanigans later. We've got several videos on this channel about Power Girl and her boobs. For now, Superman and Batman need to get a huge hunk of kryptonite that's on the ocean floor. Batman can tell Superman is having angst about seeing these huge hunks of kryptonite, but he misidentifies it as homesickness.
This is the largest intact piece of my birth planet I've ever seen. I wonder what part of Krypton it came from. Land or sea, surface or core. It could have been from the city my parents lived in. It could have touched the foundation of their home. My father might have walked on this very stone, and yet it would kill me.
But Superman doesn't have a lot of time to feel conflicted about his Kryptonian heritage, or confront his relationship to it, or kryptonite, because this is Smallville rules, which means the kryptonite has mutated some of the sea life. He has to fight a giant anglerfish. So are those kryptonite engagement rings causing kryptonite mutates? I'm really hung up on this. It didn't take a lot in Smallville. This could be causing a real problem. Aquaman, for some reason, doesn't want them to take the kryptonite. It's part of the ruins of a city. It feels like they're going for some kind of analogy to people just going in and taking artifacts, only it doesn't really work because this is a huge chunk of kryptonite that is mutating the sea life and could take down one of the premier heroes in the world with whom Aquaman occasionally works. But this Aquaman is very much in Namor mode, and so he fights them because no one takes anything from the sea. He even tries to kill Superman. He cuts a hole in the lead-lined suit he's wearing. He's all, it doesn't take much, does it? It's very aggressive.
I'm only trying to make the world safer for me to do my job.
What made you think anyone would want that? Except you. Didn't you think of that? Did you? I mean, I'm pretty sure he assumed the most of the resistance he would get from villains, not his colleagues or friends.
No, I didn't.
Wait, why not? I mean, Clark's not that naive, but some people tend to spin him in a more naive direction, so that could track. But Batman, Mr. I trust no one, did not think of this possibility. Sure, Jed. You're gonna have to work hard to convince me of that, comic. You do as you will and expect people to thank you for it. I will never understand this about you, Superman. It never once occurred to you that the world wouldn't be grateful for a savior. Maybe you have to be at least part human to understand humans. Are you attending Lex Luthor's secret seminars about how to hate Superman? That was just cruel. This would be an attitude that some people had, but it's very interesting to see Aquaman be the character who's chosen to make that point. But he ends up telling them to take it, do as they will, and so they do, and then they don't talk about it again. Chapter 3, Varietals, also known as the Superman Gets High issue. Now, even though they're not done hunting Green K, they've got most of it in Metropolis, they decide it's time to go after the different colors. The Varietals. Also, Superman is losing his chill. Look at him just ripping through Metallo's chest.
Ruthless.
This is actually an old animation and comic loophole. If you're being brutal to someone or something that's not human or not an animal, like a robot, you could get away with a lot more. You can show off the ultraviolence.
Every color another nightmare. Gold, and I am robbed of all my gifts. Black, and I am stripped of my sanity. Red, and anything can happen.
Yes. Yes, it can. But lo, Batman has detected a new kryptonite. Well, they have to go check that out, and it turns out it's located at one of their least favorite places, the Oblivion Bar, which is a special bar for magic users. Which means not only is Superman extra uncomfortable because we're playing with Superman, it's extra vulnerable to magic logic, but we're also gonna go for the Batman doesn't believe in magic trope. Magic is just science we don't understand yet. Sit down, Zatanna. Oh, hi, John Constantine. And all the demons and other creatures that I know. Now I'm just imagining that there's a science bar across the street and they get really rowdy and they just come over and yell things to start stuff.
Magic's not real.
This trope either works for you and you find it plausible, or it drives you insane. Or you don't care. That's always an option. I'm in the driven insane camp. In this universe, magic is clearly a different system than traditional science, and that's fine. Why is there even a rivalry at all? Okay, a rivalry I can actually see, but why argue that it doesn't exist? It's such an unnecessary battle to be waged. In all fairness, the magic users are equally obnoxious in this story. Kryptonite, you walk into a place of magic and speak of elements and sums. Can't we all just take the Thor approach?
Your ancestors called it magic, and you call it science. Well, I come from a place where they're one and the same thing.
Or the Doctor Doom approach, where we stop worrying about what's what and just use everything? Tangent over. This is silver kryptonite and it comes in the form of an amulet. It's said to be enchanted and Clark is drawn to it. It's beautiful. He just needs to touch it. And he does, and he's down for the count.
What happens next is anyone's guess. He seems fine.
Fine? After being exposed to a rare form of kryptonite that may have been charmed, there's no telling what could happen to him.
There's no such thing as charms or magics, just things that require more study.
Well, magic, hey, that's new. Not helping. Wally has the right idea. It could be both. Whatever it is, it gets Clark high. Very, very high. And he sees all his friends as little cartoonified versions of themselves and just wants to eat cereal and brownies and play video games. And the only way to reverse this seems to be to get the other half of the not magic according to Batman amulet. Why do they need to get the other half? Because they've already destroyed the first half. Why keep it and study it when you can yeet it into the sun? A very un-Batman move, but we'll come back to that later. What this means is that him and Zatanna get to go on an adventure together because he needs a magic user even though it's not magic. And their adventure takes them to Dinosaur Island. So how do you explain this, scientifically speaking? He's a cutie. Don't you just want to take him home?
I've already got one.
Yeah, but it's dead. Also, you could probably explain this scientifically, Zatanna. It's a poor example. The story just needs to abandon this trope and leave it alone. It is adding nothing. It really isn't. All the magic versus science antagonism can be cut and the story doesn't change. It feels like the trope is there just for the sake of it because it's a standard trope when magic comes up sometimes. The amulet they're looking for is in a volcano, by the way, and Batman just goes in there shirtless. He finds it and it shows him visions of what he wants most. In this story, it shows him wanting to be with Zatanna. She's his end girl. Or maybe it's because she's there and he's thinking about her because, well, proximity. I know some people are really hardcore into Batman and Zatanna. Tell me your favorite Batman pairing down below. I know some of you are gonna be like, Superman. I mean, if Batman wants Zatanna to happen, he's gonna have to stop insulting what she does and believes in.
Family, love, everything I want. If I succumb, I stay on a gorgeous island surrounded forever by perfect fantasy and escape, but Clark will never recover, and neither will I.
That's a really interesting insight into Bruce there, some interesting characterization. The idea that this is why he has such a hard time accepting dream worlds. He's so aware of the pain of reality and what he's doing to try and help fix it. The idea that if he is to find happiness, it has to be in this reality, even if he finds that incredibly difficult. Brief moment, but very cool. But enough of that, it's time to get confusing. This amulet is a different kryptonite than the other one, but Batman describes it as a complementary form, and showing it to Superman will cure him somehow for reasons. Zatanna says it's a counterspell, he rejects that, but it does stop Superman from being high. Boo, no. I think this comic just wanted to do high Superman, and I can't blame them. It's not high comedy, but it's enjoyable, though of course mileage may vary.
Whatever it was, it really clouded my mind. It's strange. Lately I've been so focused on this mission to all of a sudden be so oblivious without a care. It's like it gave me the break I needed. I've never really had a day off before. I can't afford to. But I can finally see why some people need an escape. Well, of course, everyone except you, Bruce.
Hurtful. And a good example of the fact that while they are very good friends, they don't entirely understand each other. There are parts of another person that you can't know, a part that is unknowable. Next chapter, we're done with the Varietals. I guess they've all been thrown into the sun or the container that they're keeping this stuff in. We're moving on to chapter 4, WSDs. Yeah, weapons of superhero destruction. The search for kryptonite is proving more difficult than the world's finest ever imagined. It's turning up in places they didn't expect. Someone's been mining the kryptonite from meteoroids around the Earth, and Batman has tracked the supply to a bunker under a diner in Kansas. Busting in, they find everything is designed to take down Superman, all at the behest of the US government.
I don't understand it. We scoured the globe, gathering every microscopic scrap of my home world, and the biggest cache of it all was hidden in my own backyard in Kansas, my home, and my own government is responsible?
I am far less surprised by this than by Aquaman's reaction. There's a whole anti-Superman squad with various weapons. This guy's got a kryptonite blade, and this issue largely turns into a let them fight issue. While Batman is taken off to meet the mastermind behind this, Amanda Waller. She's using the fact that they broke in as a chance to test her elite squad. She's having a great time. And so am I. Let me paint you a picture of genius. Imagine a walking, talking nuclear weapon loose on the streets. One day he decides he doesn't like the way the country's going, decides to take matters into his own hands. Now multiply the power of that weapon by a factor of, oh say, 1 billion, and hang a cape on it. When it comes down to it, we don't know the first thing about Superman, his biology, how his powers work. We don't even know his real name. This is a really good speech for Waller, because you know that even if she did know his Kryptonian name, it wouldn't change anything. She'd just try to find a way to use that for leverage, but it showcases the ways in which she rationalizes her need for power and control and her annoyance at things she doesn't know or outside of it. This comic wants me to believe that she hasn't figured out that Bruce Wayne is Batman, though. Press X to doubt. If you apply any effort, it's not that difficult. You gotta suspend your disbelief. We're all suspending. They take some time to detail why some of her Superman squad hates Superman. One had his wife die during the Doomsday battle, and so he hates him. Again, these little elements bolster this story and how other people view Superman. Superman is out here doing his best, but regardless, there are still going to be people who he's hurt, even accidentally, or who will hate him, justifiably or not. Moments like this lend credence to the concept of people wanting to keep kryptonite around as a weapon against Superman. And the comic just goes ham, off the rails. That's his tendency. The storyline will be going along and have these plausible moments and little character piece, and then suddenly, wham! Giant, genetically engineered, spliced with Doomsday DNA monster. Oh, also kryptonite laced. A human Doomsday kryptonite hybrid. This chapter had so much going on, it had to continue on to the next. I love that there are so many different types of kryptonite, but that only got 1 chapter. A lot of it was glossed over. And then this takes 2. This chapter is called All-American because that's what Waller called her project. Because they mutated an all-American boy who just wanted to serve his country. There's some light commentary going on here. It's there and one can go into it, but it is also largely buried by how much action is going on. It's in the background. This issue is mostly let them fight Kryptonite Doomsday Edition. They end up demolishing Smallville. Was this fight an inspiration for the Man of Steel? Even the people traumatized by Superman's battle last chapter was very Batman vs Superman opening. Now in terms of majority battle issues, this one is a very good one. It's strong. You have the cutting back and forth between Batman and Superman, who are each having their own battle, so you have different action points. And there are breaks. Since Clark is fighting through Smallville, he's also remembering his youth there, and that adds some drama to the proceedings. He's also getting weaker and weaker throughout the battle, so there are stakes. And he's inspired by Batman to change his fighting style to fight more like him. So it still feels on theme with the rest of the series. It's the world's finest. They're working off of each other. It's certainly not boring, and it does have those deeper commentary themes one could look at if one is so inclined. There are moments where it gets campy though.
Damn, I really like this model. Highest top speed yet. Good thing I'm rich.
I'm rich.
I'm telling you, somebody at Warner Brothers read this arc and was like, we need this in our movies. We need this in the Snyderverse, except for that one line that we need in the Justice League, I guess. This monster seems unstoppable, so how do they stop something so indestructible? With cliches, of course. They get his parents to try to appeal to his humanity, which they do, and the Superman squad is appalled by Waller's actions. Just shocking. Sure, there are a bunch of secret weapons decked out with kryptonite to take out the Man of Steel, but they never thought she would go so far as to experiment on an American citizen? That's crazy. Because if there's one thing Amanda Waller seems, it's trustworthy. Admittedly, that one guy whose wife was killed by Doomsday has a pretty good reason to be upset. Now, her and Batman do trade. Batman trades her the info that he stole from her and that he's going to expose to the world for the kryptonite weapons. Listen, she's got to take this deal. We got to wrap it up. We got one issue left. They gave this one extra space and it still feels rushed. She takes the deal, but not before she drops a bombshell. She didn't make these weapons. LexCorp did. How did Clark not go there first? No, not LexCorp. Say it ain't so. To ease up on the drama, the issue ends with Bruce and Clark having dinner with Clark's parents. Okay, last issue. Final chapter. Cash. We're gonna go off to LexCorp, which is being run by Lana Lang. Clark does not want to believe she has anything to do with this. That's all just leftover contingencies and plans put in place by Lex. Even though as he's flying towards LexCorp, kryptonite warheads are heading for him. They explode right by him, they run them into each other.
Clark believes the best of everyone because he strives for the best in himself. It's a problem.
That's another very good line by Batman. I know some people hate my Batman voice, but I love it so. I know it's silly, but it's fun. We have fun here, I like to think. Clark goes in to talk to Lana and she's happy to see him. Says the missiles were an automated response, has their prom picture on her desk, but then she admits she did manufacture those weapons. When Lex was taken, I inherited a multinational corporation whose stock was in the toilet. People's jobs, people's lives were on the line. 1,000 families go hungry or get fed based on the decisions I make. So I made a decision. I made more weapons for the US government per the request. It was that or bankruptcy. And I saved this company.
You saved LexCorp. You saved a soulless corporation built on the backs of moral corruption and slave labor by risking my life.
LexCorp's past is its past. My responsibility is its future, and this product is in high demand. The reasons for that are yours to sort out.
You're done, Lana. Wherever you're keeping it all, we're taking the kryptonite from your reserves.
I can't let you do that. I won't tell you where it is. Clark must be thinking he definitely made the right choice in the Lois versus Lana debate. Bullet dodged, except not really, because there's so much kryptonite coming for him now. Here's the thing, Lana's actually done more than Lex ever did. Those caches of kryptonite, she's turned them into dirty bombs that can be detonated, and then it'll just release kryptonite into the atmosphere. It'll make the planet unlivable. Clark will lose his home again, as will all the other Kryptonians. I'm sorry, I don't like threatening you, but I have to protect this company and the employees I serve. Now please tell Batman to stand down. Go home while you still have one. I'm not against ruthless, cold-blooded Lana Lang, but why though? They'll show she's being coerced later on, but did they influence her to go this hard? It feels like this is more happening because it's more shocking.
Lana, this is me. You may have been asked to play the role of a cold-hearted corporate killer, but I know you're not. I know you. I know you won't push that button. You were the only person I trusted for a long time. We loved each other once. You wouldn't.
Don't make me, Superman. He pushes, and so does she. She detonates them all, forcing Superman and the other Kryptonians off the Earth. They do a good job of showing this, the coating of the globe, sad Superman. But for me, and this is very Miles May Vary moment, I never forgot about the Toy Man, his little nanites. When he showed up in chapter 2, I was just waiting for them to matter. So some of the tension was drained from this moment, just waiting for the characters to remember Hero and the Spider Nanites. They don't remember. He just pops up and goes, the nanites, I fixed it. All so that I can have a date with Power Girl. Extortion, the best way to get dates. It's meant to be a joke, just like that was meant to be a joke, and this is meant to be a joke.
There's a decommissioned Power Girl robot we could.
Done!
Then send them out.
Decommissioned Power Girl robot. Ew. And on that note, outfit swap. It's a new day. A day without a decommissioned Power Girl robot. A day to wrap up the search for kryptonite. The Earth is saved. Superman goes back there and kisses Lois, whose main contribution in this arc has been standing at the window wearing nice lingerie. Lois, Clark, and Bruce in their civilian identities all go to see the movie that was starting off this whole storyline, World's Finest. It's the premiere. That also gives you a bit of a time frame for how long all this was taking. They were taking a lot of time out of their lives to collect all this kryptonite, unless that movie was pretty far into filming and then they just rushed it through post. They better not waste screen time on origin nonsense. Hero movies are a waste if there's too much talking. I just like a good smash 'em up. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm here to see a movie. No one in this universe will let Bruce escape this movie. It will haunt him. Nightwing's gonna get him clothes with baseball bats on them. It's gonna be in the Bat Family movie night. Somebody suggested that in the comments, actually. My voice just cracked. I don't know. Tried to go Batman mode there. It's coming out. No. As for that Power Girl robot, no, they didn't give Hero a robot to do Lord knows what with. He got to go on a date with the real deal. We're gonna be late for dinner, toy boy. Reservations are at 8. Paris time. Oh my. Power Girl. Not a robot? Not a robot. Okay, trying really hard not to die right now. Paris, here we come.
I owe you one.
You have no idea. There was a way for this to be sweet. This was not. I did get a light chuckle out of Batman owing Power Girl. They both run companies, or did. She can cash that favor in hard. But what about Lana? That was pretty intense. We can't just leave that there. Clark goes to visit her in full red glowing eye mode. There's some nice atmospheric paneling going on here. We earned it.
When you pushed that button, you tried to take everything from me. My home, my family, my life. I never thought you would do it.
I never thought I would either. I'm sorry it came to that. You pushed me. It's not like the old days. I have responsibilities now. I'm trying to make something good out of this company. I'm trying.
I can see that. Lex would be proud.
Ashamed silence.
You might wonder sometimes, I know I have, what life would have been like had you and I, had it been you instead of Lois. And you might have wondered why it wasn't you instead of Lois. Lois would never have pushed that button. She waits until I'm miles away, but I can still hear that tear rolling down.
Why so sad, Lana love? You did perfect. Ooh, the hint of manipulation to make Lana's heel turn make sense.
Required, because otherwise, what a moment for Lana.
Even though that little bit still feels like it's not enough considering how hard Lana went. We need more info. We're not gonna get that in this story. That's for later on. The betrayal hits hard, but it also veers a bit into the melodramatic. It's still in line with what Superman's been discovering throughout all of this, which is basically people's reactions to his relationship with Kryptonite. And this one is meant to be the most shocking, which is why they save it for last. It does feel like there could have been some reordering or some tweaks to these stories, but on the whole, they get the job done. It's not a perfect tale by any means, but an earnest one, and it's wrapping up. Superman throws most of the kryptonite into the sun, keeping a single piece to give to Batman, his best friend, who totally never betray him, right? He gives it to him for safekeeping just in case, because he's been thinking about what all people have been saying about him and all the objections to getting rid of the kryptonite. He thinks that maybe there might be something to that, so he's gonna give it to Batman, who he knows he can trust to stop him.
Take it, the last piece of kryptonite in the world.
I'll keep it safe.
I know you will. I know I can always trust you, Bruce.
He always will. And it turns out that Batman has what we already knew he had, a stockpile of kryptonite, and he's actually collected more throughout this entire story, including those not magical amulets. So yeah, he just left Superman there high so he could keep this at that point. It's on brand. It's not a shocking reveal at all. Lana and Aquaman take the cake for that in this story. Did they get all the kryptonite? Allegedly. But this story is constructed in such a way that you can ignore it if you want to, or hand wave it away. Oh, they missed some kryptonite over yonder, or some landed from space. We missed it because of science, or magic. So there is a workaround built in if you really need Clark taken down by some good old-fashioned green K, just like Mama used to make. Or if you want him to grow a really huge, beautiful beard with some red K. The search for kryptonite is a wild ride. It is certainly not boring. It's definitely entertaining. It's very much the Destroying Kryptonite speed run, though. Even though they give it so many chapters, it still feels so rushed in some areas. There are things that could have been expanded, but if one did that, the story could quickly have grown bloated or tedious, or given the reader too much time to think about many of the implausibilities that are built into it. These stories have some very strong character moments, some funny sequences, and strong action. At the same time, the pacing can be very off, and there can be baffling characterizations of side characters, or ones that aren't justified within this storyline itself. Though if you were reading Superman and Batman continuously, some of those things would slot better into what was going on. It's a different experience reading it continuously or having all of the issues versus reading the arc by itself in a contained moment, even though you can read it by itself. There are some questions it just ignores logistically about kryptonite because it would just bog it down. And the story is going to land very differently for different people depending upon who your favorite characters are and what type of stories you like. Because in this you get a couple, because you have the government story, you have the Magic Dinosaur Island story, you have all the side characters coming in, some of them just to try and get some clout from Superman. If you loved Firestorm, I'm not sure if you loved that characterization. On the whole, for me, this is a fun story based on how unabashedly it just embraces comicdom. It's savoring playing in those tropes and trying to bring in as many threads as it can. And you can track the logic and reasoning for why each character is brought in. mostly. This comic is endeavoring to do its best by the series' main characters of Superman and Batman, and it maintains the theme of them bouncing off of each other and being the world's finest, and in that way it succeeds. The idea of Superman trying to get rid of all the kryptonite in the world is both simple yet not. It's not a bad idea on the surface, and the story explores some of the interesting concepts surrounding it, but it also opens itself up to some more serious questions it's not really prepared for or ready to answer. You could get very pedantic if you wanted to with a story like this. But this isn't a story that's giving itself airs or trying to pontificate on anything truly deep. It's just trying to be entertaining, which gives it a different energy than other works which are obviously trying to work through or unpack some deeper themes. Then it matters more whether they hit them or not. Even when the story is going hard, it doesn't have a mean-spirited tone. It just feels like it occasionally misfires. I would say it's definitely worth reading because it's a story with a lot of little details that are baked in many areas. In the background, in the dialogue, just little Easter eggs. There are so many I couldn't highlight overall, and you might find them highly enjoyable. Or not. Or you may not care. As always, there are choices. For me, the fun moments and overall tone of the story and the camaraderie between Batman and Superman made this a fun outing, even though it of course had flaws. That may not be the same for you. If so, tell me why. Did you find it corny, silly, out of character? It went too hard. That's just too much. No thank you. I was kind of feeling Ruthless Lana, not gonna lie. I don't hate the Lana-Lex pairing. Not that that's fully what they were going for here, but when it does crop up, kind of into it. It's like all the rejected L's of Superman's life working against him. As always, I love chatting about these comics with you. I can't wait to hear what you have to say down in the comments below. It's a good time most of the time. Sometimes it gets weird or passion turns to aggression, but for the most time, it's a good, nerdy, fun time. Where else are you gonna get to discuss whether it's plausible or not to destroy all of the kryptonite on Earth? So tell me what you think. Do you like this story? Had you read it? Are you gonna seek it out? Do you hate it? I wanna hear it all down there. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notifications so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time today spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it. There are many more interesting storylines to explore. We're gonna get to them soon-ish, hopefully. Either way, whatever we're coming up with, I will see you there. Bye-bye.